Good afternoon and welcome to today's webinar where you will be hearing from our Chief Revolution Officer, John DiJulius, on the #1 tip for scaling your coaching business. A few things before we get started. We will be taking live Q&A at the end of John's presentation. If you would like to submit a question, you can use the Q&A feature that is located on the bottom of your Zoom screen. If you have any other questions about touching base after the webinar, logistical questions, tech questions, please place those in the chat. I will be keeping an eye on that during the entire presentation so I can help you out from there. And then we will also be sending everyone who joins us today a copy of John's slide deck, as well as a copy of the recording from today's session. So you will be getting both of those pieces in a follow-up. And now I'm going to turn it over to John.
Thanks, Lindsay. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this month's episode. And the #1 tip to growing your coaching business. So let's get going. First, a little background on me and where CX Coaching came from. 30 years ago, I started my first business, John Roberts Spas, which are all in Northeast Ohio. I still own, but that really propelled the next business that I started about 25 years ago, the DiJulius Group, where we serve, we're the world's leading authority on creating a world-class and employee experience. And then I also started a third business about 6 or 7 years ago called Believe in Dreams. It's a nonprofit making dreams come true for kids of non-medical that have faced hardship. But a little bit more about the DiJulius Group. So we are the world's leading authority on customer and employee experience. I've written 5 best-selling books. From working with and studying the best companies in the world for the last 25 years, we have found that there's a methodology that they do that every world-class customer experience company does. And that has been our biggest differentiator. From there, we have the Customer Service Revolution, which is a annual conference we have every October, November. This year it's November 8th and 9th in Cleveland, where we have just a 2-day amazing lineup of great motivational leadership, customer experience, employee experience speakers. We have the Customer Experience Executive Academy, which is kind of a master's degree for customer experience that, excuse me, and any of you that might have said, bless you, thank you. The Customer Experience Executive Academy is a kind of a master's course in customer experience for people who are on the track or have become their company's CXO, Chief Experience Officer, or Chief Customer Officer. And then about 2 years ago, our pandemic pivot was CX Coaching, and that is for entrepreneurs or people that want to be entrepreneurs that want to start their own business and use our methodology. So we'll get into that in a little bit. But first off, it's real important to know what the difference is between the DiJulius Group, CX Coaching, and the Customer Experience Executive Academy. So the DiJulius Group's primary clientele is companies, Fortune, 100 to Fortune 1000, bigger companies, and you'll see our client list that we've worked with, but some major brands. CX Coaching is, again, a coaching, not consulting, and I'll get into the difference of that, for probably less than companies for less than $1 million. And then the Customer Experience Executive Academy is not for people who want to be entrepreneurs. That's people in corporate America that need that final piece, because right now there's currently no undergraduate or master degree in customer experience. So we've provided, and filled that little niche here. So let me just talk about what's going on in the world today. We are in a recession. A lot of people are talking about, are we in a recession? Is a recession coming? We've been in a recession for over 2 years now, a customer service recession. So the pent-up demand, the pent-up spending has helped create an increase in sales for a lot of businesses, but because of several things, the service and experience are down. So overall customer satisfaction has been dropping like the Titanic since the start of the pandemic. And for the customer satisfaction index measured by the American Customer Satisfaction Index shows that we've just hit a 17-year low in overall customer satisfaction of all industries. Okay, the slide says 15, but it's actually a 17-year low because Q2 came out for 2022, and it's the worst it's been in over 17 years. Why? Well, everyone on this call probably knows, both as a professional, but as someone who is a consumer today, right? We have employee burnout, low employee morale, high employee turnover, staff shortages, poor hiring, lack of service aptitude training, supply chain issues, and not managing customers' expectations, which in turn frustrates the customer. So, it's really important to see this. The companies that dominate, the top 10% of companies in all industries at customer satisfaction, just crush the S&P 500 and everyone else in their industry in any economy. So that's really important, that the best, and that's why customer experience has grown so much. And that's why it's become such a staple in growing in America, with companies trying to focus on this. They realize it's their biggest competitive advantage. So the companies that will dominate the next decade will be the ones that are obsessed with evolving the experience they provide to both their team members and their clients. So let's get into it. What makes a successful coaching business criteria? Well, number one is probably obvious. You have to have passion for that content. Whatever the coaching program you're going to pick, you have to have huge passion for that content. It has to want to get you up in the morning for it. So it might be marketing, it could be customer experience, it could be overall general business. Does not matter. Make sure that you find something that you just can't get enough of, as far as reading, researching, all that thing. The second thing, which is, you got to have an entrepreneurial spirit and or a sales background, and they kind of go together. But that is critical. A lot of people from corporate America who've never owned a business or have never been in sales, I will be honest, have struggled initially at coaching, in our experience, because they've never had to go out and hunt, right? They're used to the business bringing them the clients, the customers, and they execute from there. This is a key thing to be a successful coach. And then finally, you have to have a great methodology and blueprint. That is one of the best things about the CX coaching program, is we take care of three. Our coaches don't have to worry about this. We provide a turnkey methodology system with everything a coach will need. But I'll get back into that. But the one thing, right? The title of this webinar is, what is the one thing, the number one tip that'll help you grow? And that is really number two. And that is how to work your center of influence. You have to constantly work in your center of influence. Constantly, I mean like several times a day, mapping out, right? Filling your pipeline, building your center of influence, who or should be in your center of influence, creating that list. And how do you work it? It's past customers in previous careers. It's past colleagues that you've worked with, and letting them know that what you do. And these aren't all necessarily, your center of influence isn't the people you're necessarily going after to sell your coaching services to, but it's to let them know what you're doing. And chances are they will know someone. So you really want to constantly work friends, family, neighbors, and the list just goes on and on. But you constantly want the best, the most successful coaches that have 15, 20 clients, coaching clients, are just constantly working their center of influence, right? And letting people know what they're doing, letting them know what the pain that they cause. And so you want to create, a sales lead tracker, where when someone you do know says, I think I know someone, I have a client, I have a friend who his business is growing too fast and they need what you're doing. You want to put them in this, and this is what it looks like breaking down, but this is what coaches look at every day constantly and seeing where the status is, how they've left them, their last contact and their next contact, and where the status of that lead is. So this is something that they're constantly doing. And this is other coaches that do the same thing on a whiteboard. So that is something that you have to just constantly hammer. And I am telling you, you speak to any successful coach in any methodology, and you will find a common denominator is this, that they are constantly working their center of influence to create leads, to get in front of people. That might lead to speaking at, some events, some associations, which is a great lead gen. But you constantly have to be working that center of influence. So let's talk a little bit about CX coaching. Our mission for CX coaching is to be the leading customer experience coaching authority, transforming businesses worldwide. Our purpose is to change the world by creating a customer service revolution. And I know some of you are asking, well, what is a customer service revolution? I'm glad you asked, because I want to tell you, this is like my national anthem. This is my pledge of allegiance that I could read like 10 times a day. A customer service revolution is a radical overthrow conventional business mentality designed to transform what employees and customers experience. This shift produces a culture that permeates into people's personal lives, at home, and in a community, which in turn provides a business with higher sales, morale, and brand loyalty, thus making price irrelevant. I could say that in my sleep. I could say that with my eyes closed. So what is making price irrelevant? That's what CX coaching does. It helps companies make price irrelevant. Now, making price irrelevant doesn't mean that a brand can double their prices and not lose existing or potential customers. What making price irrelevant does look like is this: based on the experience your brand consistently delivers, your customers have no idea what your competition charges. So we're all price sensitive, right? And if you've been like me, I've driven 3 extra miles, to save 50 cents on a product, not realizing I just lost in that exchange. However, each of us, every business owner, every person has a few brands, personally or professionally, that they do business with that have created so much loyalty, right? Through peace of mind, trust, expertise, making a brilliant comeback, compassion and empathy, that they are so loyal to that they don't even know how they rank against their competitors because they're not out price shopping it. That's where you want to live, right? That's where we want to be, that our customers are so loyal, they don't even know how we stack up against our competition. So that's what CX coaching helps their clients do. I don't know if anybody's ever heard this word, ikigai, ikigai, and that is the Japanese meaning for finding your calling. And I think that's critical here for anyone in any profession. So 4 things have to intersect in order for you to find your ikigai. The first one is that you find something that you absolutely love to do, that gets you out of bed in the morning. All right, but that's not enough, right? The second thing that has to intersect is it has to be something that you can truly be great at. Okay, if you have something you love that you can't be great at, that's called a hobby, right? That's a lot of people's golf games or tennis or whatever it may be. If you find something that you could be great at, but you don't love, that's called a job, right? So you want to find something you love that you can truly be great at, that people are willing to pay you for, right? And finally, the 4th intersection is that it will make a positive impact on the world. And that's what I think everyone here needs to be finding their ikigai. That's really, really important. Now you love Mondays as much as you love Fridays, as much as you love Saturdays. And I love this quote by Mark Twain: the 2 most important days in your life are the day you are born and the day you find out why. I love that. Our mission, for our coaches is we want you to make more money than you ever thought possible. However, we want you to feel that the money was the least valuable thing you received from being a part of this brand. So that's really important. We want the money to be great, but we want you to get so much satisfaction and fulfillment by what you're doing, and that bleeds into your personal life and everything else, that the money you made, while good, was the least valuable thing you received from part of being on any of our brands. So here's our biggest value is our methodology. The DiJulius Group has been using this for over 25 years. And working with incredible brands, we have found that there's 10 things that they are always working on, and the order is pretty important. And that's things from the customer experience action statement to building the relationship, to journey mapping the client experience cycle, to being zero risk, which is Amazon, Nordstrom's, great companies like that are zero risk to deal with. Why? Because they rarely drop the ball, but they still drop the ball. But when they do, they pick it up, they make it right? That's zero risk. World-class leadership, world-class internal culture, creating an above and beyond culture. All these things are critical. And how our coaches use this over the course of 2 years. A typical CX coaching client stays with us for about 2 years or with the coaches. And this is what year one, and this is what year two can look like. Now, it's important to understand that this is a blueprint and it's a nice recommendation to follow. But a lot of times when our coaches, are hired by clients, they have to triage. So sometimes zero risk might need to be in the first year because they are having a lot of customer challenges, and they're making them worse by the way they're handling them. So when you find out, and we help our coaches figure out and triage what needs to be prioritized right now, but all these commandments are critical. So our coaches go on site with leadership teams at their clients quarterly. So each of these are basically, they see you once a quarter, every 90 days. With the last quarter, we have 2 back-to-back workshops. So that's how you get 5 a year. So whatever year it starts, you might, get a client July 1st, right? So that will be quarter 1 for that client. The 4th quarter of the first year, you do 2 sessions, 1 back-to-back. The second day is the annual strategy session, which recaps what the wins and losses have been from the last 12 months and strategizes what the plan is for the next 12 months. So this is really key. We have a portal that provides everything that I'm going to share with you in our portal. That this is one thing you don't have to ever invent or create. It's been created for you. A real important thing, though, is to define what the difference between coaching is versus consulting. All right. The main difference between those two is that coaching pulls out the answers from the clients, while consulting can come in and tell the client what they need to do and how to do it. Consulting is doing it for them, providing them the answers. Coaching is using the tools to help their leadership team actually come up with it. A coach facilitates, gives directions, and should not be, this is really important, should not be dependent upon in between sessions. A consultant is hand-holding and working with them every week, virtually, on site, whatever that may be. You don't want that in the coaching business. Our workshops are intended for the first 6 hours is to create the systems, the ideas, the experience, and then the last 2 to 3 hours of that workshop session is preparing them how to implement it over the next 90 days, right? We don't want coaches doing a lot of support in between, because that takes up sellable days for you, and we want you to have those days available to sell or enjoy and relax. So these clients and many more have used this methodology through the DiJulius Group. And while these clients, you probably recognize, probably more than 60% of our business is actually B2B, business to business. Most of these brands, except for maybe Price Waterhouse, are B2C. Nestle is a B2B. B2C is business to consumer, right? Starbucks, Chick-fil-A, Domino's. We have worked in every industry, literally. So a lot of times when our coaches come to us and they have an opportunity, or they have a client from a different industry, chances are we've worked at an industry and we have a ton of examples and great material and content for them to use. But when you go back to a lot of our logos, a lot of those B2B aren't household names that people would necessarily know, but we've dealt with government, we've dealt with Department of Defense. We've dealt with the government of Qatar, helping them get ready for the FIFA World Cup. So we have been in every industry imaginable, even though sometimes you only see these types of brands being advertised. So we have the first thing we do is we have a coach camp that's 3 days. Okay, every a CX coach has to go through this, and this is where you learn what it takes to become a successful business owner. Actually, at the 3-day coach camp, we actually do very little on the methodology. Once you become a CX coach, you get access to the portal where you're going to be able to watch the video presentations of me or one of our consultants at the DiJulius Group presenting as if you're an attendee, the exact same thing you'll be presenting. There's workbooks, there's handouts, there's agendas, there's pre-work. Everything is already created for you. This is really the coaches CX coach camp. The 3 days really about how to run your own business operations, sourcing and closing leads, right? Building your center of influence, marketing and sales, delivering a world-class client experience to your coaching clients, dynamic presentation skills. So let me show you what our online portal, this is like the greatest thing ever. It has everything. It literally has everything. That's just, a drop down there, but this is what coaches, get access to. So every methodology there, you'll see listed, then you click on one and there's everything you need. So we have an education calendar for our coaches where they after the 3-day coach camp, all right, and they're licensed now. They never have to come back to the 3-day coach camp again unless they want to. But then going forward, we have monthly calls with all the coaches on it, virtual, and then a quarterly on-sites where all the coaches come together for 1 day every quarter and share, and we work on things and best practices and what they're struggling with. Some other things. So you get the customer experience coaching one sheet. That's really, how you market yourself, things you say on the call, things you say in that initial presentation to try to get them to become a client of yours. Sales and marketing resources, logos, branding, just a ton of social media stuff that you could use to constantly be telling people in social media what you're doing and what the content is. And then every session has a video, and it's a video of me or one of our coaches presenting every slide. And as if, and you get that in a video, and you also get that in an audio. So if you have that workshop coming up, you could be listening to it during runs, during drive times, to really get to know our content even better. You also get every slide with the notes that go with that slide for you to prepare. There is the pre-work that you send out to the project lead so their leadership team can be prepared for the day of. A client's post work. So it's, that's what you're working on the last 2 to 3 hours of every workshop is what they have to do for the next 90 days. And that becomes their compass. There becomes, a client workbook that all you have to do is send to them. They print, and that's what they use to follow along with your presentation that day. A facilitator's guide, your guide, a facilitator's agenda. That kind of tells you where you need to be by what time in the day. And obviously the time in that example is 9 to 5. You might be going 8 to 4. You might be going, 10 to 6, right? Whatever. The first thing is just a template to use, but it just kind of shows you where you need, what exercises should be done. You don't give that to the client. That's for you. But the client does have a more of a generic agenda, which you see on the right, and then every slide for you to present to them. So there's so much more on this portal. We have, P&L. We have a lot of business operations, the sales lead tracker. One of the best things is in the coaching, CX coaching world is the coaching community, right? You're around, dozens of like-minded people doing the exact same thing you're doing, quarterly education events. We have the annual Customer Service Revolution Conference that we have November 8th and 9th. On the 10th is our fourth quarter coaches quarterly. It's the day after. We don't want people to have to come to Cleveland more times than they need to. So all our coaches attend. They actually get a free ticket, which is $1,200 to the Customer Service Revolution, and they stay the next day. And that's when we have our fourth quarter quarterly CX coaching. So, and a lot of them bring their clients to this. In the beginning, we might have a weekly or bi-weekly when coaches are on their first 90 days. We offer multiple revenue streams besides just the coaching session, which will be your number one revenue streams. You get referrals from CX Coaching Global, which is us. We send you a case of my book, Customer Service Revolution. That comes with your starter kit. And that typically is the number one way people get leads. They send them that book. They make an introduction. They call them back a week or two later saying, did you get the book? Did you get a chance to read chapter 3? Like I told you, that would really benefit you. And that is a great lead source. So I want to show you some case studies. We have a ton of case studies that we give to our coaches to use and share to see the remarkable progress that the companies have used this methodology. Now, eventually, as coaches become experienced and they have their own clientele, they could replace our case studies with their own, which is really phenomenal. But here's a situation we are working with New Day USA, which is a mortgage company that only serves veterans of the military. Their biggest issue each month was 15% of their customers, 15% of their veterans who are already approved for a loan were opting out before the loan closing, right? I mean, that is huge, right? They have the ball on the 1 yard line and they're fumbling it, all right? Which we call VOOs, right? Standing for veteran opt-outs, right? When the veteran choose to opt out, they weren't declined, they weren't turned down, they were approved, but then they chose not to go through with the deal. Every 1% of a VOO was costing New Day USA over $400,000 in revenue per month, a huge problem. All right. So what was the original cause or thought of the cause? Where the account executives were saying, well, it's because of price. The veterans are finding cheaper rates for their loans, their mortgages somewhere else. And Rob Posner, their president, called BS. He said, that's not why. So we investigated. And after finding out what the primary cause was, a lack of communication and updates. Okay. So the account executives, after they close a veteran and they got him in the pipeline, they started neglecting them, and they were working on the next group of potential customers that needed to get approved. But once they were getting approved, they were kind of ignoring them. They started ghosting them, if you will. So we helped New Day create a system with their IT department that ensured every veteran was communicated with every 5 days. Every 5 days. And if they weren't, the system shut down, froze. When the system shut down, when that loan froze, the president, the CEO, the VP of sales, your supervisor, and you, the account executive, all got notified. No one wanted their loan to get froze because it was just bells and whistles and horns went off. So as a result of implementing this system, New Day's monthly VOOs went from 15% to 8%, still high, 8% in a few months. However, that reduction of 7% meant an increase in over $2 million in revenue every single month at no additional cost to advertising and marketing. So what we always say is we have to help companies find their VOO, right? What's your VOO? What's the one thing that we have to come in? And when you do something like this, this obviously justifies a coach's fees for the next 10 years, right? So these are important case studies. Here's another one. Worldwide Express is a shipping company that could not outsell high customer attrition. They were losing 19% of their customers per year. That means they had to, acquire more than 20%, to barely break even. So what did we do? And their team was saying it's because they're finding it cheaper somewhere else. and that's not why. We help Worldwide Express transform into a customer service culture by launching, things like their customer experience action statement, improving the consistency at every touch point, the customer experience journey, mapping that out and creating non-negotiables, building stronger customer relations that were not predicated on being the lowest and cheapest, and having service recovery protocols in place when a customer is happy. We went through this, worked with them for 1.5 years, and here are the results, said to you by their former president. And he's the former president because he sold the business.
So there was a key point in time where we hit about 80 million in sales, and we were growing fast, but we hit this point and we couldn't grow because our attrition rate was so high. We had 19% attrition, and we just couldn't outgrow it. And
customer attrition. Right?
Customer attrition. And my friend here said, listen, let's get John DiJulius involved. So I met with John, and he told me about all of his customer experience programs. And I said, listen, he said, listen, why don't you try it out for a year? I said, we're going to commit to 3 years right now. And I turned to every single person in my company. I said, we are committing to a 3-year program, because that has to be the difference between us and the other 10,000 people who are out there selling our customers. So we hired them, and in 18 months, our attrition rate went from 19% to 3%. Our sales went from 80 million to 120 million.
That's pretty hard to argue with those kinds. And we have many, many stories that we provide you that you can share with your existing or potential clients. Say, this is an example of the results that people use they got from using this methodology. So let me share with you some revenue opportunities. Each customer experience coach can set their own daily rates. The process is typically 2 years with approximately 5 sessions. Days per year with each client, once every quarter, with the fourth quarter you having 2 back-to-back. So it averages out to be 10 session days per clients over the span of 2 years. So we have coaches that start off charging around 3,500, and I think we might have some at 7,000, right? So at the lower end, one client at a rate of 3,500 a session, right, is 17,500 a year. That should be what that is, 3,500 times 5. And then this is what it could look like, right? Session 1, session 2, they go on, then they pay. And this is, again, back to the example of a blueprint of what we recommend. But a lot of times that can be triage based on where their pain points are. And you see how the fourth quarter, whenever their fourth quarter lands, is a back-to-back. So let's see what this looks like, all right? If you have 10 clients, you're charging $3,500 a day, and you have 5 sessions with each client. That's a total. You're working 50 days a year in that scenario. 50 days doing workshops. Okay, you're working more than that with building your pipeline and doing some admin. But you can see that right there is $175,000 in revenue. Here's another example of, if you have 15 clients, you're charging $4,000 a day. Still the same 5 days per client, but now you have 75 on-site session days, which is $300,000. And then on the high end, 20 clients, and that's getting pretty close to the max of how many clients a coach wants to take on. Some coaches are more aggressive. We have one coach that's probably is real close to hitting, he might have already hit his 20th client that he's worked with in the past 1.5 years and has under that's working with him. But you can see where that, money, at 5,000, 20 clients, that's $500,000 a year in revenue. And then this is what it breaks down, right? So you could have 100 days a year doing your workshops, your sessions, leaving 200 days free. to do whatever you want. And the 65 days are in addition to the 100 days, are days that you're building the pipeline, meeting with people, doing presentations for the leadership team, we call it a 90-minute presentation that gets them to want to move forward with you, right? So that's the example showing 20 clients with 5 session days. So what does the investment look like? Glad you asked. We have a one-time licensing fee of $15,000, right? And that gets you the coaches camp and access to the online portal. The online portal then, moving forward, is $750 a month, which gets you access to the online portal, the bi-monthly and monthly calls, the quarterly education, the tickets to the customer service revolution, and all the other things that come with the supports. So our next coach camp is February 7th and 10th, and we only take 5 at a time. But we are offering a $2,500 incentive off the licensing fee. So that would reduce the one-time licensing fee to $12,500. So how do you get started? Reserve your spot in the next coach camp. Then you get to log into the CX Coach online portal and start learning and digesting all that methodology. And you attend the next CX Coach Camp, which is February 7th to the 10th. Contact Lindsay or schedule a call here at tdg.click/CXC. So I am going to go here and throw it back to Lindsay and see if anyone has any questions or anything I can answer.
Thank you, John. It looks like we are all set with no questions. So again, I will be sending follow-up email with a copy of John's slide deck and a copy of today's recording, along with all of my information to talk more about CX coaching if you are interested. And thank you so much for joining us today, and enjoy the rest of your week.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Linz.
Thanks, John. Bye, everyone.